Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We have another awesome interview. Today we're interviewing Gila Kurtz, the owner and founder of Dog is Good. So I would say that for any of you pet lovers out there, this is going to be a great one, but the reality is she's just a great motivational, positive person, so I think this is going to be a great one for anybody. Next week, we're talking with Chelsea Trinidad, who is the owner of Scout Sales Management. So this will be a little bit of an interesting twist from some of the other interviews we had, because this is going to be more of an insider perspective on the wholesale side of things, and might be a really interesting conversation for especially a lot of you brands out there that are looking to find out more or jump into the wholesale side of things. So make sure you tune in next week. Same place, same time, and join in on that conversation too. So without further delay, we're going to jump into our interview. All right. Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Camille. I'm happy to be here with you.
Well, we're so happy to have you. So I'm going to go ahead and start it off with first, tell us about your background before you started this awesome company.
Before I started Dog is Good. Okay, wow. Well, I'll give you what's going to sound like a long version, but I'm going to condense it into an appropriate amount of time. Really, I think, my life's calling came clearly to me when I was 7 years of age, and it was in front of a chalkboard with a little chalk in hand as a young teacher playing to my audience of imaginary students. And so at the age of 7, that is what I had always wanted to do, and actually grew and aspired to become a teacher, taught high school before marrying my husband, a military officer who swept me off my feet. And then in that journey, it became apparent that I wasn't going to get teaching jobs every single place that we moved, but it gave me an opportunity to open up door number 2 of opportunity, which was the world into entrepreneurship. And so early on in my 20s, a couple of years ago, just joking. Early on in my 20s, I had started some businesses in the direct selling market. Did very, very well. It was a very wonderful opportunity to learn how to connect with people, how to speak properly, how to communicate, and share things that I felt really strongly about, and the chance to make money and help others do the same. And from there, I decided that I wanted to pursue something also on my own. After having my daughter, I owned a gourmet coffee vending business in the DC area. Was very successful with that. It was kind of fun. But it was through that business that my world door number 3 became available, and I walked through that door of opportunity, which was entering the world of dogs. I had a dog, a very unruly dog. I loved this dog, but I didn't know anything about dogs, and came full circle, quite honestly, in that I realized that my biggest passion was really this newfound love for dogs, but also the opportunity to work with people and get back into that teaching capacity. And so I began a dog training business, went to school, mentored with several trainers, and ran a successful dog training business where we started in Florida. And then when we lived in the Washington State area, military moves you around quite a bit. And then ultimately here in California. But it was during that time living in Washington, after attending a continuing education conference, that I realized there was nothing out there in terms of products or things that would make it exciting for me to express my love of dogs. The Dog is Good idea actually came about because attending a particular conference, there was a vendor who was selling T-shirts with dog breeds on them, and they all said the same thing: I love my, fill in the blank. And I remember standing there for about 2 minutes in front of that booth thinking, gosh, I do love my dog, but I couldn't quite articulate what was different about I love my dog and the way I was feeling, because there was definitely a little bit of a disconnect. Mm-hmm. And when I went home and shared with my husband, hey, I wouldn't wear those white T-shirts with just a dog breed on them, but what could it be? And he said, you know what, there's nothing out there. Like, let's just create that. And that's where the idea came about, and then we just started to take action on it.
Okay, I have so many things. You've touched on so many things that we have to quickly squirm back to. So,
Okay.
first of all, do you have any idea how many? I'm just curious, how many places you've lived?
Oh, yes, yes. In the course of being married, we moved 11 times.
Okay.
So about every 2 years we moved. Our daughter, by the time she was 8, had lived in 5 places.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
What an adventure. That sounds
it was. It
amazing.
was a complete adventure.
Yeah, I'm sure that that also massively, aside from just essentially forcing you into entrepreneurship, I'm sure it's affected all of your businesses as well. And Dog is Good. So you are obviously a passionate person. I mean, I'm a believer that most people, to be teachers and good teachers, have to have a passion for the teaching side of things. So you're obviously a passionate person to start with. You seem to be somebody that goes through the door, like, I picture you just being like busting through and being like, here I am, what's this next adventure? I feel like, just from even your energy and everything, you just feel like grab everything a hold, and you're going to take it on full force. That's probably why more and more doors kept opening. So what made you, do you think that about yourself, that you just have that, sense about you to open a door and step through it and see what that next adventure is?
Yeah, I thank you for this question. It actually brings up some really good points, because the answer, quite honestly, is there is always so much fear when you're faced with doors, right? Well, what's on the other side? I don't know. And in every scenario, in every instance in the course of one's life, we have these moments where we're faced with a change. There's a change that is about to happen. You're in high school, you graduate, there's a change. You're going to be going on to college or into other things. College, you graduate, same thing. You get presented with different job opportunities, and now you're faced with decision-making moments. And there's power in that. And then there's also fear. I want to do this, but what if it's the wrong thing, right? And so when I met my husband, everything up until that point was exactly as I had always envisioned as a 7-year-old child. And so that every action step led me to that place. Mm-hmm. And now suddenly I'm put in a scenario of making a decision that was going to create change. And number one, I think I might appear like, oh my gosh, yes, I love a challenge. And I want to be let's distinguish between that. Mm-hmm. I do love a challenge, and I want to, see how far I can take something. But in the moment of opportunity for change, there's excitement, and then there's fear. It's like that roller coaster of, I'm so excited to be on the roller coaster ride, and then it's like scary when you get to the top. But at the end, the ride is a real thrill, mm-hmm. if you allow yourself to go through the experience. And what I learned through all of those moves and the different opportunities that would open up was I always had an understanding of, I believe in me and what I'm capable of doing, and where I don't know what to do, I know I have the strength and the vulnerability to ask. Someone knows, yeah, and I'll just ask and figure it out. So there's that piece of it, but it's that moment of hesitating, that opening that door, and then going through, and then being okay. And so I always would look back. I remember John would say, this happened every single move. As we're driving away from where we lived to the new location, I would get this like scared feeling. And I'd say, oh, I'm getting that scared feeling again. And John would say, well, what are you scared about? I said, well, what if nobody likes me? What if I can't make friends, right? And what if I can't do what I've been doing here and transport that? And John said, do you have any evidence of that? Has that ever happened for you? And that was such a great question, because I would then reflect and go, you know what? I don't have evidence of that. I've always been able to make at least one friend, mm-hmm. and then then some. So there's the confidence in knowing that you have the capabilities, you have the skill sets. There's the being totally okay with knowing that you don't have to know it all. You just have to know how to ask the right questions. And then there's that piece of quote unquote reflective reality of, is there any evidence that is supporting what's going on for me right now? And if not, then I'm just going to discard that. And so while you still hesitate, you just still walk through, and then you're like, all right, cool, I'm here and I'm going to make it happen. And so I think it's those three pieces that create that. While I did walk through the door, I don't want people to think that there was never that moment of, I want to walk through, but I'm not like, here I am, I'm busting through. It's a buildup of experience that you take with you along the way.
Yeah. And have you, because you mentioned that you found this newfound love for dogs, did you grow up around dogs?
No, that's what's so crazy. I seriously, if anyone told me, when you are, in the midlife years, that everything about your world would revolve around dogs, I'd be like, you are crazy. I don't even have a dog. I never grew up with a dog. I didn't have friends who had dogs. It wasn't even part of my world, not even on a secondary level. We had cats. All my friends and I had cats, but even then, it wasn't such a central part of the household. Right. So it's interesting how just along the way in all of our lives, we get exposed to new things, and they become meaningful for us, or they're just information that doesn't impact us, and then we move on. But so yeah, no, I didn't have anything in my world that related to dogs growing up.
Wow, that's so interesting. I mean, yeah, obviously, just from your business and everything, I'll fully admit that I naturally was like, oh, she must have always been a dog person and grew up around them, and yeah, so that's enlightening, because I just assumed that, that's funny. So at what point then did you get your dog, or the first dog that you totally fell in love with and started really changing your world?
Yes. So my first dog, I actually have her here. I'll show you this picture, but I don't know if it'll shine through or if you can.
Yeah. Oh.
Zoe. So that was Zoe. Zoe was a Dalmatian lab mix. We were living in Japan, where my husband was the commanding officer of his ship out of Sasebo, Japan, and I was living the life. We'd been married about 8 years. We didn't have any children yet, and so it was great. But I had wanted actually to have a child, and that wasn't happening right away. And there was I was like, I just want something to take care of. And there was a family there whose dog had puppies, these little Dalmatian lab mixes, the two neighbors. And I begged. I remember feeling like a little 10-year-old. We went to go. I begged him, like, can we just go look? And he's like, we're not getting a dog. We're not getting a dog. And I'm like, I know, we're not, but let's just look, right? As soon as I got off the phone, I'm not kidding you, I called my friend and said, John said it's okay to go look at the puppies. I'm getting a puppy tonight, because you are not looking at puppies and not getting a puppy. And we sat, I picked her out. She was so cute. And John was like, Gila. And I could tell he was like trying to put his foot down. We sat in the car. You have to walk a dog. You have to feed a dog. He's talking to me like I'm 10. And I asked him, I'm like, do you think I am 10? I totally got this covered. I'm responsible for it. Totally. And so that's how we got our very first dog. And I just absolutely fell in love. But I didn't know anything about dogs. And so, honestly, for anybody watching, part of the responsibility of raising a dog and integrating one into your family as a lifelong family member for the life of that dog is to do your research, to understand, yes, you walk in and you feed it, but it goes beyond that. And there's different dogs and mixed breeds that are appropriate for different families. And you better know which one is the right one for you, because had she been with any other family, I don't think she would have I don't think she would have stayed for the life of their family. Dalmatians are very difficult dogs in that they are incredibly smart. They're incredibly energetic. They were bred to be carriage dogs. And so literally I would run for 5 miles with her, bring her back, John would take her out for 5 miles. She'd run, no problem, and it still was never enough. And so I didn't understand dog behavior. Besides the feeding and general exercise, I didn't understand what the cognitive stimulation requirements were, and how to engage her, help her, how to first off manage our environment, and then help her understand what was expected. And so when you don't have an understanding of those things, then you set yourself up and ultimately the dog up for a failure. But it did lead to my interest in becoming a trainer and learning more about it, and then that led me down the path. She truly was the catalyst to everything that we do here today.
Yeah, and that dog then traveled with you for, throughout your next set of adventures. So then you watched that dog as well adapt to each new environment. And exactly. I would assume that also gave you a perspective on, as you were becoming the dog trainer, and more of the viewpoint of how this, how life also affects the dogs or pets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So then you started the dog training business, and that was at what point? I lost track. You have to remind me. What number business was that you had started?
Dog training would be number 4. Okay. Dog training was number 4.
Okay, so at this point, you were already a seasoned entrepreneur at starting up business.
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, you were still traveling, or not traveling, on a day-to-day basis, but you were still moving regularly.
Yes. I had started the gourmet coffee vending business. We were living in Japan. We ended up getting relocated back to the Washington, D.C. area. And so Zoe came with us from Japan. And at the time, I also ended up pregnant with my daughter, which was awesome. And once I gave birth, ended up with this gourmet coffee vending business. And Zoe would go with me on my route. And we would end up at a park, a dog park, and play and whatnot. And that's where I kind of got the idea to become a professional dog trainer. I actually thought I was going to be a professional dog walker because I met someone, that's what they did. This is almost 30 years ago. And so, or 25 years ago, before that was fashionable. But I was doing the dog training in Florida. I had started it in Florida. Okay. And I don't know if this is relevant for your audience, but what I wanted to share real quickly is, in the startups of all these things, one of the biggest lessons that I learned in all of them was, 1, knowing where I wanted it to be, and then number 2, just opening my mouth and asking people to share my product or to interact with what I had to give them. And that's kind of a takeaway that I've taken with me in everything. Because moving every 2 years, if I was going to create something that was successful meaning generating revenue and keeping my pipeline full in terms of clients or access to clients, I had to work really, really fast. I didn't have time to fool around.
Yeah, that's a really great point for all avenues of business, retail side, brand side, everything. So you, at what point did you mentioned that you were at a conference and you were looking at, what was available in these t-shirts. And that's so true. I mean, I have been in the wholesale world for my whole life. And I have been to numerous shows across the country and internationally. And, I see a lot of dog items, but nothing feels they don't speak the same language, almost, it feels like, as your products. And I can certainly say, just by seeing you and, your personality and fashion sense and everything, I agree. I don't see you wearing a white t-shirt with a dog on it, Not to mention, a lot of times, one of the comments I hear is that, there seems to be just a lot of people will say, well, that's not specific enough. It doesn't look like my dog. you know, so they don't want it. And so that is always a challenge that we hear too. So you guys were at this convention, you saw this, and you and your husband talked and said, you know, there's not a line like this. At that point, you were a seasoned entrepreneur. Did you go into it saying, we're going to make, you know, a couple t-shirts and see what happens? Or did you from the start say, we're starting a company, this is going to be a brand, this is going to be a thing, we're committing to it, big picture, you know, or did it just kind of grow naturally?
No, it's a great question. And I think it's kind of a combination. So you get the idea. You also, we were very clear from the beginning that we did not want to be a breed-specific brand in that regard, that our mission was going to be celebrating the unique joy one feels in the presence of dog. And the first year that we were beginning to do this, we were trying to, you know, we would test and see, like, what's resonating. And is it an expression of the way people live life with their dog? So it was more about that feeling and the relationship and less about the actual breed per se. But early on, we knew we wanted to create something big, but I would have to say that I didn't sit down and John didn't sit down with me and say, well, let's create this big vision and what is that going to look like, etc. And but it goes back to what I shared earlier. Well, if you don't know fully something, who can you ask? And so we were very fortunate. We live in Orange County, California now, and which happens to be the location for one of the largest, most active SCORE organizations, Service Corps of Retired Executives, who volunteer and give back to, you know, young, growing companies like ours was. And we have the gift of sitting down with one of the country's top marketing experts, and he asked us some very poignant questions that made us really think in ways that we hadn't quite thought before. And we didn't, what we knew we didn't want to be was a t-shirt company. Okay, we didn't want to be a t-shirt company, but we couldn't quite articulate how that brand would ultimately grow. And when John actually was riding his bike and he came up with this word, dog fignugan. It's made up. It's not a real word. But we defined it as that unique joy you feel in the presence of dog, and that our mission was going to be delivering that. Now, how can we deliver a feeling? Well, you deliver a feeling through the tangible products that people can see, smell, or touch. And through that, we would create a brand, and that we wanted to be the brand that was known for celebrating that relationship and reconnecting people frequently throughout the day with that feeling that they get, which, if I were to say what that is, like if everybody were watching for a second, were to close their eyes and just go to that moment when you're first coming through the door. Like, remember that 3 months ago when you actually left and you came back?
Yeah, what was that?
Way back when, in previous
We're starting to feel that feeling again. It's starting to come back. Yeah.
So you would come home if you weren't someone able to bring your dog to work, and there's this moment. And it's probably one of the best moments of your day. I call it my first 2 minutes home, and it's my favorite part of travel. The dog does something in those 2 minutes for you that is unlike any other interaction you have in the course of the day. And we couldn't come up with a name for it, and that's when John came up with Dog Fignugan, and I'm like, that's what we are about, is recreating that feeling. Now, if people can encounter our messages and be in that moment with that, or look at it and be like, this is who I am, or this speaks to my heart because this is what I experience each day, then that's what we want the brand to be about. And as we've grown and evolved, we've gained more and more, we've become more and more clear. We use that as a measure by which to evaluate products and messages, etc. But we also have evolved it even a little bit further as we've grown and evolved and, again, gained more experience. And that is, yes, we want to deliver Dog Fignugan, but the bigger mission has grown into changing lives one dog at a time and creating an opportunity whereby people are helping dogs who then in turn become helpers for people. And that happens at a individual level, and it can happen in a group level, and you know, in a way it can happen at a global level.
Yeah. I love that you are to the point where you say the word dog Fig Newton perfectly, like
it took me a while.
Like it's not goofy at all. It's just you know, that's a normal word in your vocabulary. That's awesome. And it's true. So basically you guys are putting words and product to expand an experience. You know, you took that experience that people feel on a day-to-day basis in their home or in their family environment with their pets, and you are putting it to product. And I feel that more than ever, you know, recently and certainly now, that's what everybody's looking for, the experience. And, you know, what a great way to expand on that experience and continue, you know, feeling those positive emotions. So I will fully admit, because I do feel I have to admit in this interview, I don't own a dog. Much to my husband's and my 3-year-old's dismay, I've never owned a dog. We had fish once, but my dad took them over and named all of them and then proceeded to overfeed them, so that didn't go well. Uh-oh. But that's just because we have so many allergies in our house. We haven't figured that out, and now I have too many little people running around, can't handle it. But what I can say is that all of my best friends have dogs, and my our extended family, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law have a dog, and it's so fun to see them. I mean, they really are a piece of them and a piece of their family, and you know, and we have, you know, kind of just, to us and our family and my kids, they're a part, they're another piece of the family, you know. And when we've been FaceTiming with everybody, and my kids even say sometimes before wanting to see the whole family, you know, where's the dog? You know, and so it's something that it just resonates with people, and they really have. And we've seen now more than ever, I'm sure that you are well aware of this, over the shutdown time of COVID, my understanding was that there was a huge spike in pet adoption more than ever before. And, you know, I'm sure you know much more about that than I do, but about the fact that there's a reason why that's happening. You know, people need that.
You bring up a really good point. And if we were to both step away from the conversation for a second to that 30,000-foot view and just look at human behavior and the environment and all these different things that impact us as individuals, and ask that question, why is that? Why is the bond with pets, you know, we're talking dogs, but it is, you know, also with cats and even bunnies. Oh. You know, why is it that we are so drawn to them? Mm-hmm. What is it that we are seeking as human beings that we are not getting from other things? And I have a hypothesis around it. And the hypothesis is that in the past 10 years, with the explosion of technology and social media, we have technologically become more connected, actually over-connected. Like, I don't think I ever see people without their phone. Like, my phone is sitting right here. What am I going to do? Pick up I have no need to have my phone right next to me right now, right? But we're so connected that way that in essence, we've become more disconnected from things than ever before. And the core piece of being human is that desire to feel love and connection. Yeah. Now, we have our families, we have our spouses, etc. I can promise you, there was never a time in the course of my travels when my daughter flipped open her door and bolted down the stairs in excitement to throw her arms around me. Mom's home. My husband did not get up off the couch just beyond himself to pick me up in his arms. And, you know, he loves me. Okay, I'm not saying that's... But my dogs came a running, right? And they're with me. And if I'm talking to them, they're not checking their phone. They're not looking for the other dog over there. They're not thinking about what happened 10 minutes ago or worrying about what's going to happen 10 minutes from now. They are so fully present with a purity of this unconditional love that we all speak about all the time. And that fills this pocket of whatever is missing for that moment. And we seek that. And there's studies. I'm not just, part of what I'm saying is my hypothesis as to why, but now once the bond is there, there's studies that show the physiological impact and sociological impact of dog ownership. And so we crave that. My hope is in that we as human beings can live up to truly transcend into the person that our dog really thinks that we are. That there's this moment, I've shared this before in other interviews, where that in the end of our life, when our dogs unfortunately move on before us, but they're there, they're waiting, right? They're there, and they're there with the person that they've always known us to be. They're waiting. And my hope is for me personally that when I get to that place and I see Zoe and Sasha and Henry, and I don't even want to say it, but I know I'll outlive my sweet love right now, Bolo, that in the moment when I cross over and connect with them, that the person who's holding their leash is a mirror image of who I became, who I truly became, and not somebody who never lived up to my potential or didn't do the right things when I could. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going kind of on a philosophical sidebar here, but that's the way that I look at this. This relationship is here for a reason, and I want to honor it.
Yeah.
And I want to learn from it so that I can take those lessons in the human to human relationships that I have outside of that bond.
Yeah. So you, for those that don't know, and if you don't know, you need to look into Dog is Good, because truly I feel that it says something that even somebody that's not a pet owner wants to own these products because they're just so cute and funny. Actually, I have my favorite right here.
Okay. I have a feeling I'm going to guess. You know what I want to write down? I should write down what it is. No, I don't know. I don't even know if I should write down what it is. I might be wrong.
I did do a social media post about it when we first got it, I think, because I just think it's hysterical. And then I got another one and I was like, I have to show this to everybody because I would walk around with this and I don't even have a dog. I would pretend that I was this person, So this is my favorite.
I knew it. I should have written that down on my paper. Everyone loves that. It is so funny.
So for those that here, I don't know if I have enough room to back up here, but this is a bag. It's a good size bag too. It can hold a lot. It's great for right now, guys, with walking around summer days and everything. Yeah. I was going to say pools, but some pools are not open yet. Yeah. But anyway, so it says, this might be backward here. It says, my God, I forgot to have children. This is hysterical. And I know I have so many friends that, they, for whatever reason, have made the choice, to not have children. And they, feel that they have enough of that love from their animals. And, that should be celebrated too, So that's the type of brand it is. It's a company that lets you celebrate, the love for your animals, and but in a funny and lighthearted, and the way that I feel that people just at this point naturally talk about their animals. It's a regular conversation then put to items.
It's a great it's true, and all different kinds of pet owners and how they view, their love and care for their dogs. And so every product, one of my favorite things that I heard once with our brand And we sell a whole cross section of different product categories, from apparel to gifts, home decor products, and accessory items. And now jewelry, which I'm super excited about. We just got our brand new jewelry in, so that's been absolutely huge. Yeah. But and we sell scrub tops too for people in the medical profession, veterinaries. But the thing that I heard once from a customer who was buying a ton of stuff, like at an event, and I made the assumption it was gifts. Like, who needs that many products? And she got very serious, and she says, "Oh gosh, no, this is all for me." And I was like, "Really? Well, thank you, but I am curious, like, what is compelling you to want to buy all this right now? I'm just curious." And she got very thoughtful and said, "This is who I am. Like, this is how I live my life. You speak to me as a dog lover." And so it became, in that moment, I really had an epiphany about what this brand is about. It is that, well, we knew it was never about the product, but that it really was about celebrating who each person is in that relationship that they have with their pet. And that's only one aspect of someone's life. I mean, obviously there's all sorts of relationships, but this is the one that we chose to speak to, and the mission that we're on, to celebrate that.
That's awesome. So what, you obviously, as we talked about, you have this go-getter personality. You have tons of experience being an entrepreneur and all of those things. But what is it that, because you do MUT motivation, you do, we need to explain to everybody what exactly MUT motivation is.
Okay.
Go ahead and explain.
So MUT motivation actually is something that I do for our pop-up shops. It started with that. Every Monday I would go live in our private group, Monday MUT Motivation, and it really is just about taking a step back to, look at some of these anecdotal lessons that we get from our dogs and be intentional about applying some of that into our daily activity or our thought process. Now, when COVID-19 hit back in March, one of the things that I saw happen very, very quickly around me was a lot of struggle. A lot of people confused. They're, in motion. They charged into the year with excitement and just thrill of a new decade and new opportunities. And suddenly the ride came to a halt, right? And sometimes when faced with that, you don't know what to do. And with that comes a lot of emotion. And so we decided as a company, you know what, let's go live every day and bring a little midday motivation. And it started with, let's have these conversations. My intent was to help people either have a hope or find humor or find joy or find something that they could have as a takeaway that might help them through this process, whether they were a business owner or like a mom at home with her children and family now. And then it grew to where we brought on people to talk to and interview because we like to bring value, just like you're doing with your audience. And so we've been doing that every day. We did it every single day from mid-March through just before Memorial Weekend. Wow. And what I chose to do at that point was, like, I love doing this. I truly do. But I also was starting to feel that I needed a little bit of space too, right? I wanted some time to just not have to be doing anything in particular. And I wanted to give myself that opportunity to let my brain rest for a little bit, because I hadn't had that chance in the past couple months. And so now what we're trying to do is just go midday motivation a couple times a week and bring on a guest. I still love connecting with our audience, but that was the intent of it. And it really stemmed from Fur Covered Wisdom, which is a book that I wrote, Fur Covered Wisdom, A Dog Can Change the Way You See the World. It also is a private Facebook group and is going to be the tenets of it are just that. It's what can we learn from our dogs, and let's take that and take action in order to accomplish our goals, experience our dreams, etc. And my tagline with it basically is I write this in my journal every morning. I love helping people fetch anything they want in business and in life. And I've been writing that in my journal every day for 5 years. So
that's a great statement. And we love that too. So I might have to adapt a version of that.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So I have to ask, do we have any teasers that we can talk about?
As far as products, you mean?
Yeah, in the line, and I know that on our Insider and our private Facebook group and sales retailers behind the scenes, FYI, I have a couple things I'm throwing up there. But do you have anything that you can openly talk about that's on the horizon for Dog is Good?
Well, we literally recently, like within a couple weeks ago, just received all of our jewelry. And so this was a line that we wanted to create something that was more on the costume line, like it's not high-end, extravagant type jewelry, but just, again, with the messaging, something you could hold near and dear to your heart. So the jewelry is new and out and available. We often build the line around requests that we get from customers. So certain product categories. So you can expect to see more sleepwear in the fall. We're working on that. And we literally this afternoon actually have our production meeting on new ideas for just a few gift items for 2020. And then really we're looking ahead into 2021.
Fun. Okay, well, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and ask what our 3 favorite questions are to round up our interviews.
Awesome.
So your first question is, what is your favorite book, podcast, or blog?
Okay. That's a hard question.
I know it can be a hard question.
So many different things. But I will say this, because it's a book that I literally read every single day. I finish it and I start over. And I always read a certain number of pages before I'm opening up my whatever I'm reading currently, regular book. And that book is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which I'm sure most people have heard of and may be familiar with it. I believe in looking towards others who are doing the things that I want to be doing, and when they say, so there's a particular mentor that I like to follow, and 5 years ago he said, well, I've been reading this book every day for, it's 50 some plus years at that point. And I was like, really? Well, if he's reading that every day, I'm going to read it every day, right? And so, I do, and it's like it's becoming tattered and whatnot. And I don't, again, not trying to read it from front to cover every day. I just read pages, and when it's done, I just start over. And it's the repetition of the general information, and it's not about just making money, right? It's about the process of getting what you want and what's required.
Yeah. I've already heard that a couple times. I had known about that book previously, but that's already been the answer to that question a couple times. So that's very interesting. It is a great book. What is the most important thing in your toolbox? So this can be something that is a physical item or a mental, thought process for you.
I would say self-awareness.
Self-awareness, yeah.
So in other words, knowing exactly what I need to be doing, when I need to be doing it, and identifying the moments when I'm off, and then knowing what I need to do to get back into my lane, if you will, if I want to call it a lane. And to that part of the toolbox, part of the tool then becomes understanding what habits need to be there. And doing that, and I guess self-awareness and also self-integrity. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is the ability to say I'm going to do something and just do it.
Yeah, and it's really that simple as say, just do it. Mm-hmm. What is something positive? Now, this is something that, we believe very much. You always have to look for the good. I know that, with doing your motivation and just your overall motivational perspective, I believe that you feel this too. But so we always strive to look for the good in every situation. So obviously we've been hit with a tough situation over the last few months. But what is something good that you feel has come out of, the overall pandemic?
I think the good that's come out of the pandemic is that people have had a chance to be with themselves a little bit more. They've had time away from the autopilot. They've had a moment, hopefully, that they've been taking to reflect, to take stock of what truly is important, really get grounded in their values. And as those things compile together, that as they're moving forward in building their businesses and working with their teams or starting a business or doing what they do in their communities, that they are personally more empowered because they've done some internal work and have learned to ask the right questions, and hopefully are coming from a place of possibility, which is the question that's my go-to question all the time when faced with a challenge is, well, what's possible? What's possible right now? And let my brain start filtering out all the answers there. So that would be my answer. That the thing that's positive is that some time for self-reflection and getting grounded in your values and how you want to intentionally come out of this.
Right. Yeah. How you're going to move forward. So how can people contact you, reach out to you? How can they follow you? All those things.
Yeah. So you can follow us at dogisgood.com is the website where you can see all the products that we do have, www.dogisgood.com. We, of course, have Facebook, so Dog is Good page, but we have a private Facebook group, which I always encourage everybody to join. It's a lot more engagement and connection with us, and that is the Dog is Good Lifestyle Group. That's on Facebook. Dog is Good Lifestyle Group. And then the one that is my personal passion project, which will always be, is the Fur Covered Wisdom group. So that's also on Facebook. It's Dog is Good / Fur Covered Wisdom. And if you have a dog or you know someone who has a dog, we do something that it's free. You can sign up for this. Every week you get a note of inspiration written in the voice of your dog and signed by your specific dog. So if your dog's name is Sparky, then it always closes with, "Where you go, I will follow. With love, always, Sparky." But the message that is received is always, it's kind of weird. It ends up always being something that it's always something you needed to hear in that moment, and you just didn't really realize it until you read it. But that comes to you every Monday, and you can sign up for that on the Dog is Good Facebook page. On the Dog is Good website. It's just look at the bottom. It says Fur Covered Wisdom, and that's pretty much how to connect with us. And certainly all of our contact information is on the website as well, so you can reach out to us there. And for anybody watching who wants more interaction with me personally, particularly as it relates to Fur Covered Wisdom and living a life of that you really, really want, the best way to do that is through Fur Covered Wisdom, or you can email me directly, Gila, Gila, at dogisgood.com.
Very cool. And I know that, for our customers, retailers, you are willing to connect with them and, do some motivation type things for them in regards to specifically their businesses, their retail businesses, things like that. So, keep that in mind, everybody, and reach out. We are lucky enough that we get to represent this awesome brand. And I know that our whole team they were so excited when they found out that we got this brand, and when they got the samples. We had some of our representatives, our sales consultants, texting us and just being like, "Oh my gosh, we're so excited. We love this." Or, "My husband's already taken this sample because he wants to wear it." Or, so we always we're like, "Yes, that's a great thing." So, of course, obviously, we also carry this line, and you guys can connect with us if you are interested in placing a wholesale order, which I definitely recommend. You should jump on board. We'll keep you updated with all the new cool stuff, because you guys are always coming out with new stuff. You guys are like on top of it.
We do. I want to say something to that, though, because I want to express my gratitude to you, Camille, and to your entire team. You guys are an active organization, and you all are are true professionals and have been dealing with the same stuff that everybody else has been dealing with, and yet stepping up to see how you can best serve. And so I'm we are intentional about who we connect with as that's concerned. And so as things start to really open up in a bigger way, I'm thrilled and honored that your team is carrying the brand and sharing it for sure. And to that, have to emphasize with our reps, with and sales, as with the stores that you guys represent, we have always committed and viewed ourselves never as a vendor, but always as a partner. And that we love to learn from what's going on out there in the field, and we love to take in that information and then integrate it into our things, where it fits, and also, just be there outside of we're just not a product. Like, we want to bring you guys resources and assets and things that help your businesses grow and thrive. And we just believe very strongly that opening a conversation around the subject of customers' dogs really makes that very possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't hesitate to reach out. And on that note, I'm going to close out our conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you have a lovely rest of the day, and I'm sure that we will, bring you on at some point again to give us a full motivational conversation, because there's no doubt that you seem to have just an abundance of that, which everybody can always, get value out of. So,
well, I appreciate you guys, and thank you. It's been really wonderful to connect with you today.
Thank you so much. Talk to you later. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed. We certainly did. As I mentioned, we are so proud to carry the line, so don't hesitate to reach out. You can also place orders directly through your local rep or through our website, andsales.com. You can always shoot us messages on our Facebook or Instagram or any of those awesome technology tools. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.